Welcome to my tutorial. So in this session we'll discuss about the Progen data set. Okay, so there is one of the uh, data type that is Progen set data type. Okay, so we'll discuss about that. So Progen data set, Progen set data type, we can call it as a sequence or collection data type that actually stores the collection of data of that data might be of same data type or different data types. So Progen set is actually the same as the set, but only difference is that it is immutable. So once the we created a Progen set, we cannot change its content. So it's like a as its name says, so it's like a Progen. Its content is Progen. We cannot modify that. So that's why it's called as Progen set. So all the features, everything is same with set. The only difference is it's a kind of immutable, whereas set was mutable. Okay, so let's understand how we can declare a Progen set. So Progen set, to define a Progen set, so this is the syntax of defining a Progen set. So f set, let me write a very object name, that is f set, Progen set object name f set equal to Frozenset. So there is a inbuilt method that is called as Frozenset. Frozenset is an inbuilt method and its parameter is iterable object. So iterable object is the parameter of the Frozenset method. So this iterable, so here iterable object is the parameter that is kind of optional, and if we are passing any parameter, then that has to be an iterable object like list, tuple, set, dictionary. All these are a string. All these are sequence data type or collection data type, so that we can pass it as a iterable object here. So let's see example for this. And one more thing, for Progen data set, and the return type of this Progen is a Frozenset method is actually a Frozenset data type. Okay, that actually initialized with the elements from the given iterable. Okay, and this Frozenset method actually freezes the iterable objects and kind of makes them unchangeable. Okay, so let's see what does it mean and all those things. Let me define one Frozenset object. So let me write fs1 equal to, let me write, let's, so iterable object as we call it as, it can be a list, dictionary, tuple. So let me define first Trojan set with list. So let me write L1 is the list, and list we can define is the parenthesis. So let me write in parenthesis 10, 20, 30. So here L1, so if you see the type of L1, so this is a tuple. Okay, so parenthesis, in parenthesis we define as tuple, sorry, not list. So this is a tuple. Let me define list. List should be in parenthesis. List should be in a square bracket. So L1 equal to square bracket 10, 20, 30. So this should be a list. If you see the type of L1, so this is list. Okay, so now we want to convert this list to a frozen set. So list is an iterable type, so here we let's see how we can convert the list to a frozen set. So this fs1 is the Frozenset equal to method Frozenset and then iterable object, that is list, that is L1, right? So here we are converting list to an Frozenset data type, Frozenset object. So now if you see the type of fs1, so this will be an Frozenset class Frozenset. So this belongs to a fs1 is a Frozenset data type. Okay. Now if you see the content of this fs1, then this is saying Frozenset 10, 20, 30, right? So this is how we saw that list, we are converting list to the fs1. Now if we want to convert, suppose let's use set. So set s1 equal to set, we need to define in the curly braces. So suppose 10, 5, 8.5, 8.6, whatever. Let's define this element, three elements. So this s1 is the list, s1 is the set. So if you check the s1, this is a set. Now let's convert this set to a Frozenset. So how we can convert that? Fs equal to Frozenset method and then s1. So here we are converting set to the set object to Frozenset object. So iterable object here we are passing as set. Okay. So now if we see the content of fs, this is Frozenset, type is also Frozenset. Okay. So now let's convert. We saw how to convert list to Frozenset, list to Frozenset, set to Frozenset, and now let's see tuple also. So tuple is again a sequence or collection type data type. So I will discuss later more on this. But for now, so tuple we can define in the parenthesis. So t1 equal to parenthesis. So let's define 460 in parenthesis. If I see type of t1, then this is a tuple, and if you convert, let's convert this tuple is equal to Frozenset 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 t1, right? So here you can see, so fs converted tuple, we converted tuple to Frozenset. Let's see content of fs. So Frozenset 10 460. If we see the type, now if you see the type fs, so it should show Frozenset. Okay, this is also done. Now let's convert one string to a Frozenset. So let's see string1 equal to compose hello. Okay, so now if I convert fs equal to Frozenset Frozenset st1, it goes. So now fs, so it's correct, each character of the string is getting converted as an element in the Frozenset. Like H is first position element, second position element, I, then E, then O. Okay, since order duplicates and all, it's duplicate, it will not take Frozenset. Duplicate is not allowed, so that's why only one L is there. I'll discuss more on this. Okay, so this is fs. If I see the type of this, so fs. So this is how we can convert a string to Frozenset. Okay, now if you see that iterable, so a Frozenset method will take only the iterable object. What will happen if you pass any other type data in this? Suppose Frozenset of 10. So I'm passing integer numeric value. Should throw an error. So because int object is not an iterable, so it is showing an error. Okay. Similarly, if you pass any non-iterable object, then it will throw an error. So int, float, boolean, all these things are non-iterable object. So it will throw an error. Okay, so now let's see how we can create an empty projection set. Okay, so suppose so if we not pass anything in the projection set, so fs equal to, so if parameter we are not passing any trivial object, then projection set will give an empty projection set object will be able to create. So here I'm not passing anything in the projection set method. Now if I see fs, so it will show in the projection set. So this is an empty projection set. So if I see type of this fs, so this is this showing projection set. Okay, now so now the most important features of projection set is immutable. So projection set is immutable. Its elements, neither its elements nor projection set itself are can be changed. That means both are immutable. So that means once a projection set is created, its content cannot be modified. Okay, so that is why projection set is immutable. So let's see one example. So suppose fs is already created, fs is a projection set. So let me create fs equal to, let me create one fs1. Fs1 is again, already we have fs1 projection set created with this three values, that is 10, 20, 30. So what we are saying is, it's so suppose we are trying to add mm, let's try to modify this value, try to add few more element, that is 40 to the fs1, should throw an error. So projection set object has no attribute, it's attribute error showing projection set object has no. So add method is not applicable or not defined for projection set object, so we cannot use add. Similarly, we cannot use remove. So all the methods like add, remove, update, pop, etc. So those are not defined for the projection set data type. So we cannot use those methods, and hence we cannot modify the contents of the projection set. So that is why projection set data type is an immutable. Okay, this is very very important. Projection set is immutable. Its content we once created, we cannot modify it. So suppose let's try to modify some content. Suppose the first index is 20. So first suppose I'm trying to modify the elements 20 replace, let's try to replace, so first position value is 20, right? So if I try to modify that, it will show an error message because projection set object does not support item assignment. Okay, so that means elements, even the elements of the projection set cannot be modified to some different values. So that's why, because it's saying type error that projection set object does not support items. So elements within the projection set are also immutable. Okay, projection set itself is immutable and elements within the projection sets are also immutable. Let's discuss about the next feature, that is insertion order not preserved. Okay, so in the one most important feature of projection set that is very much similar to set, that is insertion order of the projection set is not mm, maintained. So suppose I am writing, let's see, fs, let's write set, let's write 10, 3, 6, 7, 8, 3 again, and 6, 7, 8, 8. So if you see this, I have repeated few of the elements, that is 8 is repeated thrice, 3 is repeated twice, 6 is repeated twice, 7 is repeated twice. Okay, so now, sorry, This closing braces, it should be same. So I'm trying to create a list. So in this, let me copy this to save the time. Let's copy this and then I will remove this. So I have created one list, sorry, set. So let me convert this set to fs equal to frozen set s. Okay, so I created one set. Let me set fs to this. So now if you see this order, so we have added first 10, then 3, then 6, then 7, like this, right? So it's randomly showing the result like 3, 6, 7. So 3 was at this position, but here it's saying this in this order. So order is not preserved. So the order is different. So then it's not guaranteed in preference set that we will be getting the same order the way we added in the reference set. So here the order is not preserved. And also we have noticed that no duplicates are allowed. So Progen set always removes the duplicates like the sets. So there is no, we have mentioned 3 twice, 8 thrice, 7 twice. So if you see this, all the unique values are there in the Progen set. So unique values are only allowed and no duplicates are allowed. So actually Progen set removes all the duplicates and accept only the unique values. Okay. Next important is features of Progen set is heterogeneous objects is allowed. So we can add different data types in the Progen set. Okay, so suppose set is already there. Suppose I'm adding, we can use add method of the Progen set. So suppose I'm writing one a string. Okay, and so so now if convert fs equal to Progen set. So here as if I do fs, so here if you see it contains the float values, sorry, integer values as well as the string. So it Progen set actually accept any kind of data type. Okay, so that means heterogeneous objects are allowed within a Progen set. It might accept float, boolean, string, numeric, list, anything. Okay, so next important features is its size. Since Progen set is immutable, it cannot be growable, or we cannot reduce its size. So that means we cannot add any element to the Progen set, as well as we cannot remove any element from the Progen. So that means this is Progen sets are not growable and also it is not shrinkable. Okay. Next important feature is it cannot be accessed using the index or slice operator. Okay. So indexing or slicing is not an thing for a Progen set. So these things are kind of irrelevant or meaningless for the Progen set. We cannot, so indexing is not important for a Progen set. So suppose if we write fs, suppose I want to print first index values, so it will throw an error. So because Progen set object is not subscriptable, so that means index we cannot use to fetch the data from the Progen set. So index, positive index, negative index, whatever, we cannot use it. Okay, so even if you write slice operator in this way, like 1 colon 3, so this is slice operator, this is also not, it will not accept because it's subscriptable object is not subscriptable. Frozen object is not subscriptable. So slicing, indexing is not applied on Progen set. Okay, now how to access the elements of the Progen set? How we can retrieve the data from the Progen set? So this is a fish, this is the Progen set. So now let me just, I want to print all these elements separately. How we can do that? So for that, what we can do is we can do some loop. Suppose for x in fs, this. This is a loop. I will just discuss more on this in my later videos. But here, this is a syntax of for loop, and I will just print x. So individual elements is getting assigned to a variable x from the Frozenset, and then I'm printing x. So it will show all the elements in this order. Python 3.6, all the elements we are able to print it. Okay. Next is, let's discuss about the repetition operator, that is a star. So repetition operator here is not valid on reference set. So suppose if I write like this, fs star 2, so it's showing unsupported operands. Okay, so repetition operator is not valid, or we cannot use on Frozenset, but this same repetition operator is allowed on list but not applicable on the Frozenset as well as a set. Okay, even the if we use mm, our repetition operator between two Frozenset, that is also not valid. It will give the same error. Okay, so the one important thing is that what we have seen in a set cannot be defined as an element in a set, right? That we have seen in my previous tutorial video. But a set can have collections of Frozenset. Okay, in a set we cannot define a set elements, but a set can have multiple Frozensets. So let's see one example. Suppose x1 equal to Frozenset. So let's define one string here, kind of tuple xyz. Okay, this is one Frozenset. Next Frozenset equal to Frozenset. Again, let's define one Frozenset, that is, let's say ABC. This is a list. I'm defining a list operator. Right? So x1, x2 is a Frozenset. Now let me define one x, that is we are calling it a list, sorry, set, and then if I do this x2, I will put x2. It's a valid declaration of set. So x1 is the Frozenset, x2 is the Frozenset, and x is the list, because it is in a curly braces. So curly braces we define the set. So x is a set. So x is the collection of, x contains the elements of Frozenset. If I print this, it's showing this Frozenset. See, it's because it's a string, so it's just changing because it's a string. So what we learned from the tuple is, in the list is, it will just character by, it will just convert its values, convert a string to a character wise later, character later. So okay, so now if you see the type of x, so this is class set. Okay, so in a set we can have multiple Frozenset, but set cannot contain set element itself. So this is all about Frozenset. Thank you all. Thanks for watching.